such a Misty episode.
Such a Misty episode.
We got so much setup.
You're listening to The Watchers.
Sorry.
A show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch movies and TV about New Jersey. This season, we're going back to where it all started.
Hell yeah.
We're watching season 1 of Yellowjackets.
Hell yeah.
And we're having a great time.
We are having a great time. This is, I think, my 5th time around. And I don't do this with TV ever.
I do, but...
Yeah. I am not a person who has like a comfort show like that, like a Friends or Office or one of those things where you watch it repeatedly and you've seen the episode 1,000 times. I don't have that. I don't normally enjoy that.
I wonder, you and I are closer in age than the generation of people who are, though there are some people my age doing it, but the like obsessively rewatching The Office and Friends in particular is something I noticed with when I was teaching with my freshmen who were barely alive when those shows. And so it's interesting to see that because I don't have one show that I'll do that with. I have a lot of shows where I will throw episodes back on, or like there are plenty of shows that I have watched several times through. But I think for some people, a show like The Office is the best example. I think they will just watch it through and then start right back over, and they are just perpetually watching The Office.
And I cannot understand that for the life of me. Like, I get that that's a thing people do, but I need things to be new. I need to watch a new thing. I very rarely go back and watch anything. So for the fact that I still enjoy like revisiting this show is a surprise to me. Like, and it's partly that I'm doing it for our conversation.
Right.
So I'm like looking for things I haven't seen before. So we are on episode 2.
F sharp.
F sharp. This is such a Misty episode, though.
It's a big time Misty episode.
Yeah,
I mean,
we really start to get a sense of her like origin story.
I know that all she shows us is kind of like evil. Is like Misty at her worst in this episode. I love her.
Yeah, there were some things. So I don't know if we were recording when I said this, but there's a lot of things that. Because I wasn't, how did I say this before? Because I think that this is, to me, the key to rewatching it this time around is the fact that because we're through season 2, there's things that I know are red herrings. There's things that I know are...
And there are a lot in this episode.
So many. There's things that I know are red herrings, and there's things that I know what they're forecasting because we've already seen it. And so I don't have to pay attention to those things in the same way. There was literally when the scene of them right after they get off the plane when it crashes and there's just the mass chaos of everyone running around, I was like, for the first time, focused on the background and like who's interacting with who, what's happening back there, like who are those red shirts, like what's, and it was interesting the things I kind of picked up on by not having to analyze every single second of the show because I know how some of that stuff ends.
Yeah, it is interesting when you can kind of like it's not trim the fat away because it's all good, useful information in its own way. Yeah. But what kind of like gets held up when you're...
Right. Yeah, and a lot of what they're doing in this episode, this had a lot going on. This was a big one. But a lot of what they're doing is establishing relationships and connecting people with each other in ways that we already know from the future.
Right.
That these are relationships that are kind of pivotal, important in some way. So it's not like I have to be like, oh, look, they're telling us that Vanna's really important to Ty.
Exactly.
Like, we know now that Vanna's really important to Ty. We don't need to like pay close attention to that setup to wonder about it,
Yeah. Yeah. Ty is immediately looking for Van when the plane crashes. Yeah. She's the first person.
And also that like Jackie like only cares about saving Shauna. There's a lot of those little connections. Misty's like sort of obsession with Ben, Yeah,
it's immediately she goes looking for him.
Yeah, there's a lot of like establishing who's important to who based on the way they react to the crash. Like Travis climbing the tree for his dad. One thing that I really noticed this time around is how many scenes in this episode are of Shauna showing care to Javi.
Yeah.
A lot.
Which,
like, every time you turn around, she is like either looking at him with care, touching his arm, pulling him away from something scary.
Which is funny,
She's
because
like immediately his caretaker.
Yeah, and it's funny because we talk about her selfishness so much in this show, and also her, like, not that you have to, it has to be a maternal instinct to care for a young child who is clearly like struggling right now. But it's like, we've talked so much about those two things about Shauna, but here she is the one, and she's the only one that we see anyway who even bothers, like, especially compared to Travis, who's continues to be so mean to that poor little boy.
Yeah. Butt munch. Yeah, no, I definitely noticed how often they were showing us that this time. Like, look, it's Shauna looking at Javi again. Look, it's Shauna sitting next to Javi around the fire. Like, it was really noticeable. And I think the only reason I noticed it was because I wasn't panicking, searching for every single clue. Like, I knew which ones I could discard,
right,
you know?
Totally.
One thing I did pick up on when I was watching it this time, which is something you brought up last week, was like the connections between when they flip from one timeline to the other and how those things are carried through. And it's not something I don't know exists, but it's like,
but again, it's something else you had the time and like space to focus on this time.
Right. And it's something I really noticed this time.
Well, and it's interesting because sometimes they're really intentional about it. They'll like use a song cue that will carry between the two, so you tie them together. But they don't always make it that obvious. And sometimes it's probably because it's not that important. But other times it's because, I think anyway, and we'll talk about it more as the season goes on, they're trying to more subtly draw those connections in your brain for you without you necessarily focusing on them directly.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I think that because this is so early in the season still, they're like really doing a lot of setup, but they're threading that setup through a lot of action. And so some of that setup is like creating those little cues in your head where you're like, you're not even realizing they're doing it, but they're flipping from 96 to 2021 with this, like, there's one that I noticed later on that I'll just mention. Like, there's a really obvious one where you see Nat and Travis in the woods drinking out of the flask, and then they're talking, coming back from, I think, after they realize his dad is dead. And then it immediately flips, almost like matched scene flips to Nat drinking in the hotel room and then calling Travis. Right. So it's pairing those two things of like the beginning of their closeness and then the end of their like relationships. We don't know that yet, but you know, in those two scenes that are almost exactly the same, like, image from one to the next.
Yeah. And that's the last time, because I forgot that when Nat calls Travis and he does answer. I'd completely forgotten. So that's the last time the two of them talk, is Travis pretending that he doesn't know that that's Nat calling and saying that he thinks she has the wrong number. Which is really sad, knowing where he ends up.
I know. I wish he wasn't dead.
I know. And just for like, oh God, they're both gone now. And just for like story's sake, I would have loved to have gotten some time with adult Travis for sure. But
yeah, we only got like one scene with him, and it was with him and Lottie when she goes to find him at the cabin. And it was it struck a weird note for me, that adult Travis scene.
Well, because she's narrating it, if I remember correctly, through a voiceover, and I don't know that we ever even actually hear him talk. I don't think we do. I think she tells us.
No, I think we do hear him talk at some point, because I remember somebody saying that his voice didn't sound.
Oh, right.
For what they thought adult Travis would sound like.
That's right.
But it is through her perspective. Should we start at the start?
Yeah.
Plane's going down. So I was wrong last week, and I remembered this after the fact, but this is not the coming down the mountain needle drop. That's when they return to the same scene in episode 4.
Right. I mean, it makes sense that you would confuse that. The show is, man, this is another thing, like how many times do we revisit moments that we've already seen through one perspective, right? Or from one angle or whatever. And this is a good example. Now we've been back to the scene of the crime twice. The first one, we don't actually see them touch down. The second time, now we're getting more of what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, this scene where the plane's about to crash, there's a lot happening really, really fast. Mm-hmm. But the things that stuck out to me this time was obviously Van's mask not dropping. Mm-hmm. Laura Lee and Lottie, did you notice they were holding hands?
They were holding hands and praying together.
Yeah, which I thought was like, again, we're setting up pairs that are really important, right? The Lottie and Laura Lee pair continues to be really important, even though Laura Lee's gone. Mm-hmm. That was the big one there. Oh, and I noticed that Misty knows how to prepare for a crash.
Of course. She
like puts her head down, puts her hands behind her head.
Because this private plane that their dad, whatever flight attendant they may have had, wasn't giving them
the lecture.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way.
Yeah. No, I just noticed how she's watching the fact that they're about to crash and she just covers her head. I actually, when I was watching it this time, so I watched the episode, I rewatched it a couple of nights ago, and then the night after, whenever the night it was that I watched it, I don't know if it was Netflix or one of them fed me there's a new movie about the Andes crash.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it's called, I think, Society of the Snow. Uh-huh. I watched it.
Oh, how was it?
Rough. It's a almost 3 hour movie. It's 2.5 hours, but it was really, I think harrowing is the word that I keep coming back to, because so we're watching this TV show, this fictionalized TV show about these girls crashing in the wilderness, and what they go through in this fictionalized TV show is so much less than what these men went through.
Really?
They crashed in the Andes in the middle of snow.
Right. That's a good point.
They all should have frozen to death.
Right.
They literally slept in a pile, so they didn't. People did die in their sleep. So many of them died. And there was an avalanche. They were never not in the snow.
How long were they out there?
72 days.
Jesus.
In the snow.
Yeah.
And it started to... Yeah, some of them got buried in the avalanche that hit the plane. It just, and the guys that left there were 2 guys that ended up walking for 10 days and eventually came across a guy on a horse.
Oh, wow.
Because they got down to the valley out of the snow and they came across a guy and basically were like, please help, because they had called off the search. And then they ended up, flying back in with the helicopter. But and I thought the thing that was really interesting about it was the way they played the after part. Once the remaining survivors had been rescued, you hear the word shell shock as what they referred to Vietnam vets when they came home, which we now call PTSD. But the sort of combination of blankness, relief, hysteria, joy, despair, all at once in the way they felt when they got back. It was really intense. But so I started thinking about how Ashley and Bart refer to this story of these guys that crashed in the Andes as one of their inspirations. This meets Lord of the Flies meets Teen Girls, So I thought it was interesting to see what they're taking from it and just to be a little more familiar with the story than I was before. I'm just wondering how much of that story will come back, because again, 2 of them walked 10 miles.
I was just
in the snow
going to say
to find a guy on a horse, and they didn't speak the same language as them. I can't remember, but they wrote a note and threw it across a river to him and was like, "We are the survivors of this crash." And, yeah. And it had only been 72 days, but when you crash in the middle of the Andes, they assume you're dead after 3.
Of course. And it's especially with them setting up Travis and Nat venturing farther and farther out. And and it being, I think we're, we know we're heading into winter. It would be, I could see them kind of drawing that parallel.
Well, and one of the things that's the most notable about the Andes crash is that the pilot was wrong about where they were. 2 survivors, Nando and Roberto, climbed the 15,000-foot mountain peak on the western rim of the glacier without any mountaineering gear. They hiked for 10 days into Chile, traveling 38 miles before finding help.
Oh, my God.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Crazy.
I think we've all kind of decided that's sort of what's going to happen with Nat and Travis, right? That they're going to break out on their own.
Maybe. I mean, there is that quote that we talked about repeatedly, like that they wouldn't have survived without Nat is the phrasing. Okay, this is why I thought this was important. So, unknown to the survivors. So they walked 38 miles, right? Climbed a 15,000-foot mountain to descend into Chile and find help.
Mm-hmm.
The other direction.
That's right.
Due east, only 13 miles, there was an abandoned summer resort hotel.
That's right.
In the other direction. But that's why I thought it was important that they thought they were somewhere they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't have the knowledge to realize that they could have gone the other direction and found safety a lot easier. Crazy.
It is.
So, and how much of this is going to end up coming into play is my curiosity here.
And I could see it going a few different ways because, like, we do have the stuff in season 2 where Lottie has that, like, weird vision of her entering, like, a hatch in the tunnels, and we're not totally sure what they are still. Like, is that something that, you know, they're going to come upon that's going to help them make it, we just don't know. Like, planting the seed for what kind of obstacles can get in the way and also what things will help them survive the next however many months we have left out there. Like, especially knowing that Bart and Ashley have directly referenced this story,
mm-hmm.
I think it's worth putting a pin in this for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk about that for so long, but I had meant to bring it up at the beginning because I thought it was interesting how things that have paralleled that story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, immediately we jump back to 1992 from there with Misty's most perfect bangs.
She's so good. I have to reiterate, she does not have headgear. I really always think that she's got headgear in this scene. She might as well.
She has spiritual headgear.
She really does.
Yeah. Listening to Hold On by Wilson Phillips, which will come back later.
She's got the Lips phone. It's a perfect 1992 tableau.
Mm-hmm. I also noticed this time that she has a telescope in the window.
Oh, yeah, I did notice that. She's not looking at stars.
Oh, you're right. She's not.
No.
She's spying on her neighbors.
100% she is spying on her neighbors.
She read Harriet the Spy and bought a telescope.
Just the most evil Harriet the Spy.
Yeah.
So good.
We get the Robbie Delgado prank call.
Yep. Becky is the one who spreads the rumor, right? I think she says, which is another great. I don't know any Beckys today. There's no Beckys in 2024.
I knew some in high school.
Yeah, of course you did.
Yeah. But then we also, I forgot how many of the sort of very quotable quotes are from the first couple of episodes. We get opinion is the wilderness between knowledge and ignorance.
Yeah,
that's Plato.
I looked that up this time, which I've never done before.
Is it actually Plato?
It is Plato, but the quote is really, this is so on the nose. So it's like, I've just trusted Misty to accurately quote Plato, right? Like, it just seems like something she would do. But it's actually opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance. And I don't imagine that's a translation thing where, like, some people translate it one way. So it's a little on the nose to plant the word. It's
wilderness.
Yeah. But okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But now that I say that, so much of this show has become, which it wasn't at the start, about how different people are remembering the wilderness and the stories they're telling themselves, and like, what's
their
your
opinion on what happened.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point.
I don't know how intentional it was, but it is funny that she misquotes.
I mean, the word wilderness has to be intentional in there.
And that she misquotes Plato and is so proud of herself, and they immediately are like, you thought we're not. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah, did the young people know how big prank calls were in the early 90s and late 80s?
I don't know if they do.
If we have any listeners that are
younger
Gen
than us,
Z, yeah, it was just
spend a whole night.
The hold that prank calling had on us. It's just like such a regular thing.
Do you
that
think
people did.
I have anxiety now because I lived in fear of getting prank called when I was a young person? You think that's what started it?
Yeah. The older brother of one of my classmates used to prank call me all the time. But yeah, no, every time you'd answer the phone, it was like, is this a real person or is this, somebody from some upperclassman?
And the three-way call, which I mean was still like Mean Girls. It's still a thing. Like I don't think it's an issue anymore, but just like never knowing if somebody just absolute phone terrorism for young people. Like, just, we don't have to. Well, we have
phone
social media.
Is the right way to put it.
But we have social media to be cruel to each other now. We don't need to call.
Yeah.
Also, nobody's answering their phones anymore. So how hard would it be to prank call somebody these days?
Right. But it was our only option. We had one phone and it had no caller ID. So you had to answer it.
Unbelievable.
It could be your mom or it could be fucking Jimmy.
Yep. Or Robbie.
Last name I won't say.
Did we already say the perfectly named Robbie Delgado?
Oh my gosh. Well, I know we said it originally at some point because the names in this are so perfect.
Robbie Delgado is, I think, my favorite, but so many of them are so good.
Misty Gennaro is my favorite. Yeah, so then we go back to the plane. This is where we see, the exit from the plane, how hard that is. We see the scene with Van, Shauna trying to help, Jackie pulling her away, all of that set up. Was there anything new that you caught this time?
Not really. Like I said, that's when we get, because they bust out and then you get the scene that feels to me, I always think of Lost, and Misty is like the sort of like the Jack Shepherd of this scene where she's like, we're following her through, and that's how we get introduced to all of those little pairings, like you said. And
right.
There's all that stuff. Ty's looking for Van, Misty looking for Coach. Van shows up looking like a full-on ghost. Like, it's like a jump scare with Van. She even says surprise.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we get the leg. I did notice this time that the belt that Misty is wearing is that like Lisa Frank pink and green color scheme that Jackie was saying their Rutgers room was going to be. Yeah, but this is one of the other amazing needle drops is the
Mother.
Everything's fine. Yeah, Mother when she's about to chop the leg off. Like,
and we still get, it's so funny, we still get the Yellowjackets title card. Like, the opening, the no return credits are so like such a part of the show now. That I forgot. We get this really weird, stark. It's just it's so different.
Yeah, it really is. That's true. I didn't even realize we weren't getting the intro song yet. Misty on her date at probably some little Italian place in Jersey.
Bubble baths, walks in the rain, muscular calves, escalators, knuckles, steamed clams, obviously.
Of course. Yeah, obviously. Right.
Enough about me. What turns you on, Stan? It's so good.
And all he can come up with is hair.
Can work with that.
Yeah.
I know like we're laughing about it, and I think we've talked about this scene before and just kind of laughed about it, but I do want to take a second. What is Misty doing here?
Like, she's manipulating him.
But to like, do you think this is really like, first question, is this really a list of turn-ons for Misty, or is Misty so weirdly just like connected from the rest of the world that she thinks this is a normal list of turn-ons for people? Like I just have
Yeah.
no idea what Misty...
Well, we know that muscular calves is a turn on for Misty.
Well, we've just made that...
we see it later. No, she is absolutely staring at his calves, and he is wearing shorts for that reason.
Because he knows.
Yeah.
Because maybe he was...
would. Yeah, he does.
Like, what...
Yeah.
What do we think? I just have no... I love her. I still don't know what to make of Misty.
I mean, I think that she's definitely manipulating him, like, especially in the car.
Right.
She's like, if you thought I was pretty...
Totally. But it's like, is she, like...
To what end?
To what end? Because I don't get the... Knowing Misty now, like, I don't get the impression that Misty is interested in a, like... I was going to say a relationship.
Horny in a sociopathic way.
Like, do you think she would have had sex with this man?
I do. Because she, like, does that thing where she, like, molests Coach Ben.
Oh, that's a good point. She's like...
I think that she's, like, looking to service her needs via Stan.
Her weird... Yeah, I think you're right. But she's so on the note, like, so obvious. Like... For Misty, who on the one hand can be so, like, quietly manipulative and diabolical, she is also sometimes so obviously that. Like, with Stan, like, when she literally says, if you thought I was pretty, you would come inside. Like, that is so on the nose. Like, and like, the same thing with, we get her first instance of faking car trouble, so he has to take her home. Like,
this is, like, her thing.
She pulls the...
Did she take, in addition to the babysitter's course, did she take, like, an introductory mechanics course?
Like what is she...
Just to know how to pull that right wire.
It's so funny. Well, and... Wow. To know how to pull the right wire, which is what she does when she destroys the black box. She tries to physically destroy it just by smashing it, and it is pulling a wire, which we know she did to Stan, and which we assume she does. We get confirmation. Yeah. With Nat. So I don't know.
Yeah. She's just taken, like, community center courses on basic mechanics and babysitter training and all of those things. She just wants to be prepared for anything.
Yeah. Thank God YouTube wasn't a thing when Misty was young, where she could have learned how to do anything evil in 30 seconds. Like, she had to work for it a little bit. Yeah.
The one thing I picked up on this time that I think I noticed last time, but really struck me, was her nails. They focused on her, like, sharp, like, claw-like nail extensions when she's on the date. And then this is what I didn't notice last time. Later, when she's at the house and she's talking to Nat in the kitchen, she's pulling them off. She's pulling off her fake nails. I did not notice it until this time I watched it.
Huh, what do you think is going on there? That's a really interesting choice.
It feels to me like there is this, like, current presentation of Misty that she's giving Stan that is, like, very specific. Like, her little bra's peeking out of her shirt. She's, like, got these, like, sharp nails. She's being this coquettish whatever.
Well, and then she thinks she is.
She thinks she is. And then when she's talking to Nat, she's so natural. She's so, like, back to who she is elementally, like, from the time they spent together in the woods, that she's, like, pulling off all of the excess stuff. She, like, takes the claws off. She's, like, kind of more, like, physically, it's almost like she's reverting back to an earlier version of herself or something.
It's interesting.
They're popping back and forth a lot here. So, like, we're popping back to the woods right after that.
We get that. That's the Misty Jack Shepherd. That's when we learn that Misty took the Red Cross babysitter training class twice.
Yep. She's ripping fabric for bandages.
We get the sea breeze drop. There's a lot of 90s brand stuff in this episode. There's the Midol, I love it. Sea breeze, the corn nuts, which now I know the Heather's reference of that.
Yep.
Very fun.
Want to save the corn nuts?
And also
I also love the implication. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I also love the implication that, like, Jackie wants to save the corn nuts but didn't want to save Van.
Yeah, it's very good. I love how mean. I mean, I get it. I would be furious too. But Van is so Van with this.
Yeah.
There's also Coach Ben asks about his leg, and Misty is going to tell him the truth, but Ty interrupts.
Yeah.
And I kind of like, I see both sides of that, but it is interesting that Ty is really ready to like hide the truth from Ben about himself.
It just, I think to her, it seems like it's more logical. It serves the moment. Like, don't upset him right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then we get the Adam scene. He definitely stopped short.
Yeah.
Is this like the Star Wars? What is it? The Han
who shot first?
He stopped short.
But she's not paying attention. So they're both wrong. But I do, man, this scene, every time I watch it, I'm like, no wonder people have conspiracy theories about Adam.
I know.
He's such a red herring. They want us to think that he is up to something.
It's the acting instruction was be charming and suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. Though before the accident actually happens, Shauna has, I think, maybe my favorite Shauna line when Callie asks her what the roast looks like. She's like, the meat, can you bring the meat, get the meat out of the freezer? Callie says, what does it look like? And she's like, it's a little refrigerator on top of a big refrigerator.
One of my favorites.
It's so good.
One of my actual favorites.
But it's like, I gave Callie such a hard time, but Shauna's an asshole to her too.
Yeah, like, they both are. They're cut from the same cloth.
Exactly. So it's fine. Like, I don't mind that Callie's shitty to her because I learned from watching you, you know?
Yeah. We also get the "Are you trying to be adorable with me?" which I loved. It's a good Shauna scene. Like you can see it in her face, all of the different like emotions that are going on, the indignation, the like being charmed and not wanting to be, and like. Yeah. And I also noticed, so like he writes the phone number of the shop on her arm. That is such a high school thing to do.
Yeah.
What adult do you know would grab a stranger's arm and write their phone number on it?
None.
That is high school flirting.
Yeah. Well, and that's why it works on Shauna. She's so stunted, right? Like, and then he gets her number from her in that scene. I noticed they do definitely trade names because there was some speculation early on before we'd all rewatched a million times, that when he says later on, I just thought maybe you seem like someone who doesn't play by the rules, Shauna. People were like, how did he know her name? It's because she told him her name in this scene. He has a coexist sticker.
But that's another. Yes.
Run fast and far.
Yes,
Run fast and far.
Yes. But like the way he says that line is another one of those red herrings where it's like, you know, the brief is sound charming but suspicious.
Adam Martin.
We go straight from that to the couples therapy scene though.
And now
I think is intentional.
Oh, totally. But now I'm so suspicious of therapists in this show because of everything that happened with season 2. I'm like looking around at the office to make sure it's not the same. Like
there's some Georgia O'Keeffe-esque prints on the wall.
She calls them kids. If my therapist called me kid, I would be.
Oh, yeah.
She's none of the therapists on the show are any good, including the ones that Lottie invents in her mind. Like,
yes. It also looks like a church. Like the lighting is like glowing from the like stained glass windows onto them. And also just like, I love how blunt Shauna is. She's like telling them to go home and do that they should do this fantasy. And Shauna is just like, no. And at the same time, Jeff is like, oh yeah, okay, we'll try it. She's like, no.
Which is, there's all of this stuff also in this scene. There's no reason to assume that Jeff isn't cheating on Shauna. He's so... Right.
Although we haven't seen the text yet.
But we just
know that he's staying late at work.
Right. And just the way he talks about it. And so, you know, we're watching this already assuming that he's cheating on her. And he's like, but she's really like, Jeff's not doing a great job, but Jeff is always trying. And Shauna, Shauna is the one who's like checked out and looking for. So it's, and you do see that here, even though what you think you're watching is a man trying to hide an affair.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think it's interesting later, we'll talk about this more when we get to it, but I really noticed this time that like Shauna is really reticent about all this stuff with Jeff until the phone call with Adam.
Exactly.
She kills the rabbit.
Yep.
She gets all worked up and then is like the aggressor in their interaction.
Yeah.
Like that's the triggering moment is when she talks to Adam and he says, you seem like someone who doesn't follow the rules. And she's like, okay, I don't follow the rules. I'm going to go kill this rabbit, feed it to my family, and go fuck my husband.
Right.
Because you challenged me.
Yep.
It was really clear this time when I watched it.
And very Shauna.
That like sequence of events.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. As we will see more of later.
And knowing what Shauna is capable of, and Shauna knowing what she's capable of makes it very like, it's like, well, I understand why she has been allowing herself to live this kind of like dulled housewife. Nothing wrong with being a homemaker. It doesn't take much. It takes a younger, kind of handsome flirt of a dude, like to set her off. So
yeah, but I think it's literally also that's one of the reasons they emphasize that line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you seem like someone who doesn't follow the rules, Shauna.
Right.
Like, it's like poking her.
Uh-huh.
And she responds.
Do we think, I'm only half joking, or I'm half joking, but how much of Adam is and has been a red herring all along? How much of it was them setting us up to mate? Because like again, the stuff with the back tattoo, with it being such, it's so close to Javi's drawings that we find later. Do you like what? I know we don't know, but like how much of that do we think was them setting Adam up for the possibility of being something more later and just deciding not to do that?
They've talked about the fact that like when all the Adam Javi craziness was going on, that there was a moment where they were like, Adam might be more.
Mm-hmm.
Adam might be someone else. Adam might be Javi. Adam might be like,
right.
Much more important than he ended up being. But I think they were kind of like, in a weird way, both trying to put in a red herring, but also leave room if they wanted to later on decide something else with him.
Do you think we're done?
Which is hard to watch then, because you're like trying to figure out things that may or may not matter.
Exactly. And I wonder if we're done with Adam, other than what finding his body is going to do for the show. But if we're going to find anything else out about, because now that we've seen his studio where he has spent apparently a week or so obsessively painting Shauna, or has been painting her, like we still don't really know what. And I just wonder if this is a story that's going to fall by the wayside, or if he comes back. And I don't know what I want out of it, actually. I think I'm done with Adam.
I get that, but I also feel like they gave us so many like breadcrumbs about him that it would be kind of frustrating to me if it didn't go anywhere else. Like, I want something to tie this up. Like, I want to, like, maybe it's as simple as finding out, like, he did know, like, I know we know this, but like not through the show necessarily, like that he knew who she was. He like had the article or the book about the crash, that like he knew who she was. He was obsessed with her beforehand. Those paintings were from beforehand. He was a bit of a stalker. Like, anything other than Adam is just an innocent pawn that ended up like, it just doesn't track to me.
And it's funny because you and I talk so much about how one of the things we like about the show is like how benign the men are, and how much of these women, the conflicts for these women have to do with their like their relationships between each other, but how we're trained to watch men for villainous behaviors, reasonably so. But, and so that's why I'm like, is it just that we've been reading so much into Adam because we're trained to, and it's interesting if the show lets that be the case. But I just feel like Adam is a little bit of a different story than Jeff, you know? And we've had that kind of turned on its head now with a little bit with Walter, because Walter is a murderer. I mean, he's a murderer. I mean, ostensibly because of his contact with Misty. I don't know that we're supposed to assume this isn't like, I think this is probably his first murder.
He was pretty cool with it,
but he was fine with it.
He was pretty,
and he's got that big weird
pretty
house.
assured of himself.
So I don't know. I just don't know what to make of any of it. Now.
I know. I do. I feel like I would be happier. I'm fine if they want to let this go. Like if they painted too open of a picture, made a decision and had to leave some stuff hanging,
Right.
fine. But like, he painted so many pictures of her. That's not normal.
No.
That's not normal. Like, I have a crush on this person behavior.
No.
Like, it's over the top. And the tattoo, like you said, like, there's just a lot of stuff that we'll have to just, I guess, agree to drop if this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's definitely stuff there that like feels so much like it's a clue,
right?
Like flashing light clue.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, well, okay, maybe not.
I guess we've got a few seasons left to find out still. So,
yeah.
Especially once they find his torso. Like, we know season 2 ended with them finding it in
Heckle Barney Park.
That's right. Heckle Barney State Park. So that's a perfect time to revisit his story. We'll see if they do.
Yeah. I hope so. I would just like a little bit of closure there. I don't need it to be like, I don't want it to be the driving thing in 2021 anymore. Like that was, we're done. We're done.
I agree.
But like maybe finding out some sort of like closure information.
Yeah, I would be happy with that.
Yeah.
Then
we get Misty's date coming inside.
So funny.
Poor guy.
That poor
You could be
guy.
Caligula. I also noticed, I don't know if I saw this before, there's a photo of the team on the wall right by the door.
Oh, that's
like an old photo.
That's cute and sad. And
we get the confrontation with Nat about the postcard. Misty offers Nat tea, coconut LaCroix, or LaCroix, she says. Or Sherry.
Sherry is so funny.
Yeah.
Like, what is she? Also,
I know.
Something about Misty, and it's twice in this it's a few times in this episode, the cataloging. Like, she's always listing stuff, which, like, I don't really have anything to like say about that other than it's just one of her traits, and I wonder what accounts for that, because we get the list of things that turns her on, then we get this list of beverages, then she does the later on I buy 2 of everything, and she goes, the list that she lists when she talks about that, we'll get there, is like, it's so long, and it's so like 2 like calzones from the Stromboli place, like I always buy 2 like it's such a it's just like word association, it feels like, and I just wonder what that habit
That's interesting.
points to for her.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I definitely noticed it with Nat when she was listing all of the drinks, but I had forgotten that she does that like regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Then they end up at the bar. We get one of my other favorite lines about the citizen detective community. We're like private investigators, except no one hired us or asked for our help.
She has a whole presentation. She's got her accordion folder. She opens it up, and Nat just reaches in and grabs it all.
Yep.
It's really good. It's a really
she's not letting her go through her thing.
Yeah.
I did look a little closer at the papers this time.
Mm-hmm, me too.
Yeah, so there's Shauna's wedding announcement, and the official like wedding. What do they call it? The document that's like the.
I don't know what they call it, but I know what you mean.
Certificate?
Sure.
Yeah. And apparently she was 22 when they got married.
Well, and that looks like it's not a copy. It's not like she went in front of some microfiche, which means either she tracked down the old newspaper or she's been keeping tabs on them since. Like,
she's been keeping tabs on them.
That's a weird thing to be doing that early on. That she's been doing this since 1990, if she was 22, like whatever year, I don't know, 2000, whatever.
She's got a copy of Callie's birth certificate from 2004.
Which is weird. That's a really weird one. Like, it's not easy to get a copy of someone else's
like official
birth
copies.
That's what I was just going to say. There's like a raised seal, I think. Like,
yeah, it's not a photocopy like Travis's ID.
No.
It's like actual copies from like a registry of some kind. We see Kevin.
We do see
Kevin.
Oh, also, this is such an obvious little thing, but Jessica Roberts' card is stacked right on top of Ty's political pamphlet. Like they put those 2 together for us, so we can start drawing that connection. Kevin has such kind eyes and such a sweet face, and he's so hung up on Nat. It like a woman he hasn't seen in 20 years. It sounds like it really breaks my heart. But he is a cop, so ACAB, like, whatever.
Right. Sure. Yeah. But also he's like goth freak Kevin Tan.
Yeah.
Yeah. The alternative kid to cop pipeline is real. Nat says they used to be best friends. And then we see Misty snag Kevin's card, which of course will come back later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a good example of what you've been talking about with these flips back and forth, because we hear a little bit of them talking about Misty, but this is when we get Travis and Nat's like first scene of them talking to each other, and it's right after we see Nat kind of really struck by the fact that Misty has located him.
Yeah, she like she grabs the copy of the driver's license. And Javi's looking for his dad. Travis has he was helping one of you idiots put on an oxygen mask.
One of you idiots really made me laugh this time. It's so unnecessary.
I know.
I mean, like, I get he's upset because his dad is dead.
His dad.
And but it's not their fault. But trying to help one of you idiots put on
Yeah, it's
really
good.
made me laugh. Really made me laugh.
It's pretty good.
So mean to Nat.
I know. He's mean to all of them. He really hates them at this point. We get some Ty at home again with Simone and Sammy with the creepy doll.
It is so hard to watch Ty without that layer of knowing that other Ty is always waiting around, and knowing how calculating Ty can be. And like,
yeah, I know. Now I'm like looking for it.
Like how much of her doing the like, because the first time you watch this, she brings the stuff home from whatever that restaurant is that they obviously love. And you think it's like shamed wife trying to get in good with her partner. Like, but then I'm like, how much of it is her being like, no, I need Simone to just let me do what I need to do. The intent is something that I'm questioning so much more now.
Yeah. Well, everything feels a little bit more calculated when you think about it from the perspective of having other Ty kind of just around.
She is really funny, though, when Simone tells her that the teacher says Sammy's having trouble making friends. And she says, do we know for sure the other kids don't suck?
Exactly. Well, so the thing that I thought about was like, if you had been through what Ty went through, are you really going to worry about, like, is your kid making friends as a big, huge problem?
Right.
It's like, is he making friends? No. Okay. Is he stranded in the middle of the Canadian wilderness eating his friends? No. Cool.
Exactly. So he's doing great.
He's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine. But you texted me earlier. They are really trying to make Sammy creepy in this beginning couple episodes.
He's the whole reason I watched this first season, wondering if this show, he's most of the reason, Ty's the other part, how much of this show, like, are we going to find out is supernatural?
Yeah.
Like, it's all Ty and Sammy, really.
Yeah. Yeah, because we get the drawings in this episode, too, on the, like, and that later when you look back, it's, like, scenes from, that he wouldn't know about.
Yeah.
It's really, like, yeah. I know. That hasn't been explained either.
No.
Sammy. We see also in that part where she's in his bedroom, her kind of lose it a little bit when the shadow puppet comes to life. It's like sign of things to come.
Yeah. That's what I wonder too. Like, is that a direct hallucination? Or do you know what I mean? Like, or is it what, like, I don't know how much we're supposed to, like, I don't know how to draw this line between, is Ty actively hallucinating that the shape on the wall changed versus is it, I don't know what the other option is. Like, but
yeah. I mean, to me, it feels a little bit like she's having all these like slippages of reality. Like later on, she sees I think it's a wolf or a deer or something at the party with the fancy money lady. Like, I think that it's like, to me, it's showing that the woods is still present in her life every day, and it keeps popping in when she least expects it.
Yeah, even before everybody starts coming back into her life.
Yeah. But, you know, she is thinking about it because she is having those people investigated.
That's true.
So it's really present in her mind, I think.
That's true.
We get Jeff and Shauna's first attempt at the fantasy.
Right. And of course,
Tabitha and Hank.
Right. It's so funny that they give different names. Like, that's not the point of this, guys. And also that Jeff's fantasy is that he might meet a customer and we're supposed to think he's having an affair.
Right. I love this isn't right at this point, I don't think. Oh yeah, it is. Where what she comes up with is that she's there to make a return. He's like, what? Why is this what you're thinking about? Is my furniture that bad?
He's so offended.
He is offended.
This is where...
Well, he really cares about his quality furniture.
He really does.
Yeah. They have a really nice dining hutch in their dining room. That's a little mid-century number that I appreciated.
He's got a good eye.
Yeah, he does.
This is what he finds out about the fender-bender. Shauna is famously secretive, so it's no surprise.
Yeah, because he sees the number on her arm like a fucking teenager. We have a quick flashback to the woods where this is where they see Coach because Laura Lee finds her little teddy bear, Leonard, and we get the blood drip onto Leonard's head. Just like, it's a great framing.
Totally.
You see her look up. We also get Jackie's asking who has the best arm. And Mari's like, I do, Jackie. Which is really...
got, a little bit of Mari in this episode, more than I remembered. I think of her as sort of really not showing up until season 2, and she's pretty Mari in these scenes. Like, we get the fruit by the foot bit last episode, and...
Yeah, and she's like stepping up to throw a shoe or a rock at Coach in the tree. But then Travis sees him and runs up the tree.
Well, right before that, though, we get Van. You're on fire today, Jackie. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be me.
Yeah. She's got the lines.
Can't believe they thought they were going to kill her.
Oh, God, I know. This is also the first time we see the symbol.
That's right. First symbol sighting.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. Because in that first episode, in the pilot, which I guess was filmed much earlier, they had like the eyes in the tree, but this is the first time we see the symbol. And it's right after, I think Coach, is this right after he falls? Yeah, right after he falls from the tree, we see the symbol.
Yep.
And then goes right to the postcard.
Exactly.
The symbol to the symbol. Yeah.
And that's when Simone says, because we find out that Sammy won't open the shades in his house. She says it's like Dracula's crypt in there.
Yeah.
And then Ty says the worst thing you could say to a child who says he has no friends, which is, I'm your friend, Sammy.
Right. Because that's what you want.
Yeah.
It's your mom to be your friend.
Like, good Lord. I'm reading too much into this, but Ty is making shadow puppets on the wall. Everybody's obsessed with shadow work these days. Ty being someone who has another half that she has been horribly unsuccessful at integrating because she has spent so much time being Ty, the politician who is, so caught up in that, and then therefore has this other personality who shows up to do the things that Ty won't do. Like, so having her be the one making the shadow puppets, it's like, it's a little on the nose, but it's hard not to see it that way now.
Yeah. And it's a bunny, which bunnies are important. A bunny, a snail, and then the wolf.
The wolf, yeah.
Sammy mentions the lady in the tree who watches him at night, which obviously we'll come back to later, is Ty herself.
Horrifying. Why, though?
Horrifying.
Does he not... They kind of play it with Sammy where on the one hand he knows it's Ty. But on the other, I think if I saw my mom watching me in a tree, I'd be like, hey, why were you watching me in the tree last night?
Mom?
What were you doing?
Yeah.
And then
no, that's fair.
She says, like, look at me and tell me what you mean, Sammy. And then his response is just, Sammy, why?
I don't know. I feel like it's like the Adam thing. Like, they're trying to set up possibilities. And one of those possibilities is that Sammy is a haunted fucking child.
Right. Which I still am not totally unsurprised. Like,
no. I mean, if your mom is Ty, you're going to, even if you're not supernaturally haunted, you're going to be a haunted child.
Yeah, you've got a ghost following you around either way. Like, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. We get Adam calling from the body shop.
Mm-hmm.
We find out he is the one who works there. This is what we were talking about before with the, you look like someone, or you seem like someone who doesn't play by the rules.
Yeah, he's just kind of called to flirt. I don't really, like...
Yeah.
It is...
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious.
It's so funny, though, because now looking back, I kind of see this as, now that we know that he knows who she is,
mm-hmm.
before he meets her, because he's read the book.
Although, does he say later, or is this just something that, like, he found out who she was after and got the book to learn about her? Or is that something we all said as like a...
We don't know when he found the book.
Okay.
But the book is in his apartment and he feels very guilty when she finds it.
Right.
And I think that we're led to... I think the thing that makes the most sense is that he knows who she is when he meets her. So I can see him in that conversation over the phone kind of realizing when he's overstepping and being too familiar because he does know who she is,
right,
and pulling back from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could totally see that. That's a good point.
Yeah, there's like this, you see it in his face too.
Mm-hmm.
The actor is doing a good job of like modulating that expression and kind of like he's letting himself go and flirt with her a little bit, but by doing that, he's also being a little more familiar than you would be with an actual stranger that you didn't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
We also get one of my other favorite lines, which is "Enjoy your minivan," as they're getting off the phone. Enjoy the rest of your minivan. Sorry,
your minivan. Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your minivan. Yeah, it's great.
It is a really good line.
But this is the trigger, right? Like she then goes and kills the rabbit.
She goes right to killing that rabbit. We see what an expert butcher Shauna is. Mm-hmm. She does it with like
precision and yeah. And she looks very satisfied with herself while she's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, this is an interesting flip actually, because so she's skinning the rabbit, and then we flip right to the woods, and she's comforting Javi in that moment while the girls carry Coach. So we're going from her as the butcher to her as like Javi's caretaker.
Totally.
Is Javi a rabbit? She gonna? Well, she does. She does end up butchering Javi.
Yeah. Yeah, and is he
skinning and butchering Javi after he drowns in the ice?
He's the first one because Jackie gets slow roasted. They're not planning.
He's the first one they chase down and kill,
like a rabbit, and kill. And yep,
he is the rabbit.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
Javi.
Yeah. This is where I mentioned earlier the Nat drinking with Travis, and then Nat drinking, calling Travis in the hotel room. And then we see the chili.
Jeff is telling such a stupid story. No wonder they're bored, but he's really trying. He really is.
He's trying. This is where I noticed the cool mid-century hutch behind him.
Shauna tells him the truth. When he asks, said, "This is really good chili tonight. Is it a new recipe?" She says, "I killed a rabbit. I skinned it chin to anus." And then they are both shocked at the joke she would make, which is obviously what really happened. And also, like, they're so disconnected from her time in the wilderness. Mm-hmm. Like we hear that and we know, like, the reason she even knows how to do that is because she had to do it for real to humans.
Right.
And they're like, "You're so weird. Oh, geez, Mom."
But we also know now that Jeff has read her journals.
But I guess, well, hold on. Do we know at this, we're connecting some dots. We know that Jeff will read her journals because the glitter is blah, 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 that whole thing. But what we're thinking is, and that's, he had already read them, and that's why he knew how to put the symbol on the postcards. We haven't 100% have had that confirmed in this show.
We're not having it yet. No, we're not having that conversation yet.
So, but we can assume he has read her journals.
Callie in this scene is wearing green and pink. keeps coming up, this like color scheme.
Mm-hmm. Right. Especially like there are a lot of subtle things that tie Callie back to Jackie in ways in that like green and pink. I know you said it's also Misty's wearing the belt earlier, but
the belt, yeah. But yeah, it does tie to Jackie as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we get the scene at the end, near the end, where they're starting the fire. It's nighttime now in the woods. Nat's the one starting the fire.
Mm-hmm.
The girls are covering the dead with the big Yellowjackets banner.
Yeah. Aww.
Yeah.
Lottie finds and takes her meds.
Mm-hmm. We see that there's like 6 pills left.
Mm-hmm.
A little foreshadowing there. She's wearing a rabbit jacket in this scene. I think that's Rabbit that she's wearing. She's wearing that little fur coat.
No way to identify which fur it is, but I believe if anybody can, it's you. So I'm going to take your word there.
We get Shauna mentioning that that the emergency beacon should lead them to them.
Uh-huh. Maybe we should conserve some food. Want to save the corn nuts?
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think it's flipping back and forth a lot here, and this is why I don't think I noticed the change in Shauna the first time around, because now we see Jeff at the calculator, but Shauna's like starting the role play again.
Mm-hmm.
This is also, we're getting a little hint that we don't recognize yet about their financial problems.
Right. But yeah, he really is crunching numbers. Like, we're supposed to think he's staying late because of work problems, and that's a cover for the affair, but
yeah. It's the work problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's the furniture store is not exactly killing it.
Then we get the scene of this episode, right? It's the F sharp. Yeah, Laura Lee thinks it's her fault that the plane crashed because she called her piano teacher a name in her head because she wasn't playing right. And then
she makes it sound at first like she said it out loud, and then she's like, in my head, but.
And like you're waiting for the word to be when they ask her what it is, because it's Laura Lee to be something really tame, but it's cunt. It's the worst word she could think of.
Yeah.
And then this becomes all of the girls sharing their little secrets, which is interesting because their secrets become so much bigger later.
Yeah. There's also a significant shot of Misty watching this happen.
Yeah.
And understanding that they're bonding as a group.
Yep.
Like you can see it in her face.
And Lottie has that great one where she steals clothes from TJ Maxx. She's rich. She doesn't need to do that. She returns them. She's got thousands of TJ bucks she's never going to use.
TJ bucks.
Yeah.
I love it.
Jackie sneaking downstairs so she can pause the color of night on Bruce Willis's Wang. Jersey boy Bruce Willis.
Yep. Yep. And while she's telling that story, Misty is heating up something in the fire.
Yep. And nobody's paying attention to Misty. Even though they do all know how valuable she's been. That's a huge part of this. Jackie asks, what about you, Shipman? Any secrets big enough to crash a goddamn plane? Seems like maybe she knows Shauna's got. And Shauna's secrets could be, well, Jackie, I'm in love with you, or it could be, well, I'm having sex with your boyfriend.
Or both.
But Ben screaming is the thing that interrupts it.
Yeah.
The laughter here, and I don't know if I've caught it before or not, but it is like animal-like. It's like they sound like a group of hyenas. It like reminds me of the sounds you hear in the beginning of the pilot of them like whooping and hollering while they're like whooping and hollering while they're chasing Pit Girl. And I just like that. The laughter.
I thought you were gonna say the hooting words, the hooting and hollering while they're playing soccer and when they win the game.
Oh, that too.
Because that's also that same sound.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But just the way they're like painting them as this kind of like pack of animals, even before they
around a fire.
Yeah. Even before they start murdering. It's interesting.
Yeah. We quickly jump back to 21 where we get the scene that she sees that Bianca has texted Jeff.
Usual place. Don't be late.
Yeah.
And it's such a it's like a comedy of errors, because this is what, I mean, we don't know yet, but like Shauna cheats on Jeff with the false knowledge, but she thinks he's already cheating on her.
Yeah.
Not that makes it okay,
And
blah, 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 but, you know.
No, but in her mind, that's her justification.
Right.
You know, because she has a chance before this. Adam asks her to dinner. He says he'll fix her car for free if she goes to dinner with him. And she says no.
She says no, thank you.
Yes, she says no, thank you. But like, you know, she had an opportunity to cheat before this. She says no. Then she thinks that Jeff is cheating. And then it kind of like opens her up to it.
Right. And then
get that last... two last real bits. We've got the woods where we see everybody sleeping around the fire. Shauna and Jackie sharing a pillow. Misty is the only one still awake, just kind of sitting there, staring at everyone. She gets up to go to pee, and she overhears Van and Laura Lee talking about how great she is and how they wouldn't survive without her.
Jesus.
And then notices the flight recorder. Yeah.
It's always been crazy that she did this. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I think if I were Misty, I'd be like, wait till we get rescued and they tell everybody what a hero I was. Like, I think that would be it. I wouldn't be like, I mean, I know Misty's a sociopath, so it's no surprise. But that her thought is, it reminds me of, you know, that thing. It's, I don't know if it's really a quote unquote sociopath test, but they say that thing where it's like, here's a riddle, Jodie. Tell me if you've heard this before. You probably have. Anyway, you meet somebody at your mom's funeral and you really hit it off. You have a really deep connection, but they leave before you can get their information. What do you do if you want to see them again? And they say, like, well, a sociopath would say you kill your dad because if they show up at your mom's funeral, they're likely to show up at your dad's. And it's always held up as like, that's like a classic sociopath test. I don't know if it really is or if that's just a fun little riddle, but
that never occurred to me. I'm glad to know that I'm okay.
It would occur to Misty.
Oh, yeah.
In the same way that you're like, oh, if you hear a bunch of people singing your praises at a plane crash and you come upon the distress signal, what would you do? Most of us would say like, oh, I'd be so excited to be hailed a hero when I return to New Jersey. All I've ever wanted is to be hailed a hero in New Jersey. But she's like...
And also, like, you could be the one that's like, look, I found the recorder. It's still blinking.
Exactly.
They're going to find us. Like,
but no,
you know,
her first thought is, this has to stay this way forever.
Yeah.
So crazy. I know she's crazy, but like, so crazy.
Yeah. And then this last little bit with Nat and Misty is giving us a lot too in 2021, where like Nat's going to find Travis in New Hampshire. Side note, I grew up in New Jersey and spent a lot of time in New Hampshire. That's a 6 to 7 hour drive.
Yeah,
it's not short.
It's like a road trip.
Yeah, but it's not a short drive to spend with someone like Misty.
No.
Who only wants to listen to podcasts or show tunes.
They're the two options, the only two that exist.
But Misty has fucked with Nat's car, which we don't quite know yet, but I think
we can assume.
We're maybe suspecting. Yeah.
It's funny too, because Nat isn't surprised later when she's like pissed when she gets the confirmation. She finds the wires in a later episode. But it does say a lot that Nat has spent so much time with Misty and knows her level of crazy that she still goes on the trip with her. And also her like desperation to get to Travis. But all of that is like, if I got in a car with somebody who I think sabotaged my car so that it'd be, you know what I mean? Like I don't know that I would go.
Yeah.
But Nat's
I
just
think
like
that
used
there's something
to this.
about there's something about what we find out later about the hierarchy in the woods and the fact that like Nat was one of the leaders. She's not afraid of Misty.
Right, exactly.
Like, and Misty's not afraid of her.
Yeah.
You know? They're like they're both people you should be afraid of.
It's such a good point, because even when Nat is holding a gun to Misty, like Misty's like,
she's not afraid.
Hold on, she turns her back on her to go to like,
there's no fear there at all. Misty has 2 coffees. This is the list you were talking about.
It's such a funny list. It's like candy bars, sandwiches, New York style pretzels, which nobody in Jersey is calling them New York style pretzels, but fine. No. Good pumpernickel from the bagelery. You always buy 2, like, it's such a weird list. Calzones from whatever the Stromboli place is. Like, it's such a funny list. She's just saying words. Yep. She's just talking. It's almost like Misty's just going to keep talking to distract Nat from the actual issue. She's just trying to like make her dizzy with it.
There's so much subtext in that conversation when they're in their own cars about like, you know, about Nat's car not working, Misty being like, oh, what are you doing today? And like, you know, it's such a back and forth with like a different conversation happening underneath it.
And they both know that.
Yeah, it's very clear to both of them, I think.
There's that perfect shot of their two cars, which is such a like, if you had to guess what kind of car each of those women would drive, you would guess that Misty would drive that tiny little Fiat, and that Nat
like
would have some, and Nat would have some cool black classic car. Like,
yeah, oh, totally,
so obvious.
But this is where, like I think we said earlier, we hear "Hold On" playing again.
It's like if the movie Cars. This is so important. I need to say this.
Okay,
it's like if Yellowjackets were remade in the Cars universe, those cars would play Misty and Nat.
So and Shauna would be played by that little Ford Fiesta.
Exactly.
Or the minivan. They're really associated with cars in this. Wait, hold on. I'm realizing how important cars suddenly are to everyone. Because Jackie doesn't have a car.
No.
If she did have a car, it would be like her parents' leftover Mercedes or BMW.
Mm-hmm.
Travis isn't associated with a car, but he has a truck later on.
Right.
Javi's too young to drive.
Yeah,
we don't see Lottie driving anything yet. I'm developing something here, and I don't know what it is.
It's Jodie's
I know
car
that
corner.
you're thinking Cars universe as like a cartoon thing, but I'm now picturing like what cars are associated with each of them and why. That's interesting.
But some of them are so on the nose, like Misty and Nat, a little more than like, and like Shauna,
Shauna's minivan,
of course,
in
like,
2021. Yeah.
But yeah. So that's all. It was just
but is Adam driving a Bronco?
Oh, he's driving some bullshit Jeep. The important thing about his car is the coexist sticker. We'll revisit this every single episode for the rest of our show, so we'll have time.
Wait. While we're in car corner, hang on. Okay. I did a search for Adam Yellowjackets Bronco and found this Reddit post. I'd never seen this Reddit post. This is from like 2 years ago.
I feel like we're back, baby. We're back in Reddit corner.
We are back, and I'm excited about it. In the theory sub, there is a post that is 2 screenshots. One is Adam Martin's license plate, which is New Jersey 6N4 BB7. The next picture is Misty's Fiat, New Jersey license plate 6N4 BB7.
It's good. They had 5 license plates they had to pass around in production.
I know. I'm sure that it's a continuity error or
but
like
could you imagine
like that,
if Misty? What would let's reverse engineer a theory that would make sense. Why would Misty and Adam be? Because Adam's still alive at this point. Like, how would Misty and Adam be? How and why would they be trading license plates?
I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Well, and
I was thinking about the fact that he works at a body shop. Like maybe that's not his car, but that is his car.
And we have some very thin speculation. There is some tiny little theories floating around that Adam and Walter have some connection. So I don't know what that does for us, but Walter being the one connected to Misty, Walter being the one seeking out Misty, maybe. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, so in that Reddit thread, somebody named Hurl Maggard, which is great, said, Melanie Linsky tweeted she hadn't seen a particular theory at all. Has anyone seen Misty and Adam being in cahoots theories? And then she said, the next person said, I think Adam could be in her Citizen Detectives group. He could be a super fan / stalker, which kind of goes with what we were saying earlier.
Right.
What if Adam is the biblical Adam? What if Adam is Misty in drag? Yeah.
Again, I mean, obviously it's that they only had a handful of New Jersey tags to use, but
I know.
But it is interesting it all goes back to this.
Wait. Red string is happening around me. What if, so we had said there's like some things between some questions about Adam and Walter, but we know that Walter's in the citizen detective community. So what if Adam's in the citizen detective community knows Misty?
And they're trading license plates. Why?
I don't know. There's no reason.
I think here, okay, it is really fun. And, I love doing this probably more than you. I'm really willing to like believe the theories, but we are only 2 episodes into a show that I don't think they were expecting us. What happened with this show,
we know they weren't,
like, I really think because this show is like the premise is predicated on a plane crash, people had their Lost hats on. And Lost was a show that from episode 1 wanted you to be watching it with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what Yellowjackets, and like you said, we know that's not what Yellowjackets was expecting. So they passed around Jersey license plates because they only had a couple. I'm going to bet for season 3, they'll be much more careful about what license plates are where.
Yeah. Well, someone named Passion for Film agrees with you in this thread and says Occam's Razor, they don't have many license plates to work with on set.
I know it's not as fun.
It's not as fun.
And I love believing insanity, but
they can't use real license plate numbers in shows either. So these are prop plates.
Did we talk about the very last? Yeah. Did we talk about the very last scene?
Well, Yeah, basically, we talked before we started recording about how great the music cue is in that moment, where we've got I think we have the Mother playing again.
It's Hold On.
Am I right about that? Oh, it's Hold On, right. And then she bashes the flight recorder, pulls the cord out, and the music cuts off.
Yeah, so it's Hold On playing in 92, so now this is Misty's theme. Brings it back in the present in the second to last scene that carries over back into the past, so that we connect it back to Misty being so bullied for so long and such an outcast, right? Like, it's 1990. Like, they could have shown that flashback of her being prank called. It could have been 96, right? But we need to know this has been happening.
Yeah.
Misty's always been on the outside, and now she has a little bit of community here. And it's so fun that when she pulls the cables out of the box that the song cuts off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great little moment. I just want to quickly shout out Jeff's little woo when he's getting out of bed after they've had sex. It's so cute.
He is married with a child and he is still celebrating having sex. He's really like...
He's so psyched. I love it.
Such a dummy. He's so good.
He continues to be great.
Thank God.
So takeaways from episode 2. Lots of setup. Lots of connecting individual people. Making little pairs that'll come back in the future. The big thing for me was noticing the Shauna and Javi stuff.
Yeah.
And how much more blatant that was than I remembered. And also just feeling like Adam is it's much more obvious to me watching it this time that he knows who she is. Right. From the moment he meets her. He may not have orchestrated that crash, but he knows who she is. And he probably, purposely wanted to meet her for some reason.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know that I think he orchestrated the crash, but it is a weird... Jersey is a densely populated state. The likelihood of you getting in a fender-bender with someone with a celebrity you're obsessed with is not... You know what I mean? Like, the likelihood of that. But I do feel like then we're getting a little too... I don't know. I really don't know. I think the most obvious... Yeah. The most, like... real world way to read this is fender bender happened. He figured out who Shauna was after the fact, got the book, read the book. It tricked Shauna into thinking that he had plotted. That's what motivated her to murder him. End of the story. But I don't know that I'm satisfied with that for this show with how much they've placed on Adam. So we'll see. Or we won't. Yeah. And we'll find out. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that at the end of season 2, there's some stuff in like episode 2 we still don't really have answers to. I feel pretty good. I think, I think what's interesting is realizing what's happening as I rewatch this for the billionth time is that I'm finally be able to filter out some stuff that I don't need to focus on and I'm picking up on other background things that I didn't know that would even be possible after watching it this many times.
Totally.
But yeah.
But it's a dense show.
It is a dense show.
And
yeah.
Next week, we're watching season 1, episode 3, The Dollhouse. The Yellowjackets debate the merits of probably dying while staying put or probably dying while looking for shelter. Taissa navigates a dirty attack ad.
Oh, yeah. That's right. We start to get a bit of a threat to her candidacy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to watch the next one. And yeah, I do recommend watching Society of the Snow. Just, it's a tough watch, but it's a really crazy story. And thinking about the way that it connects to this show gives some possibilities for what might be coming.
It's cool.
Especially about like the way that they got saved. And we don't know how the Yellowjackets got saved yet.
I can't wait to find out.
I know. I also noticed there's been some people chattering about like when is the bonus episode coming out.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't know anything, but I think the assumption is it's probably going to be closer to when season 3 is released.
That makes sense.
And not just like randomly dropped.
I mean,
unfortunately,
that would be the smart thing for them to do, marketing wise, anyway. But of course, whenever that does happen, that'll be our episode that week, no matter what we're talking about or where we are in our show.
100%.
And in the meantime, if folks want to weigh in on theories, want to tell us we're wrong about something, want to tell us how much they love the show, where can they do that?
They can email us at watcherspodnj at gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And they can find us on Instagram at watcherspodnj, where you just posted a clip with lots of diners in it, which made me very happy, as I love diners very much.
All but one of the South Jersey diners I used in that clip are now closed. Heartbreaking.
Oh, God. That's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst.
And a couple of the ones that from North Jersey that you suggested are also closed.
Yeah.
Very sad.
But Saddlebrook Diner is still there, where my parents had their first date.
Stratford Diner's still there. Great curly fries.
And they can find me personally on Instagram at Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM.
And I'm at Andrea AQ on Instagram.
Yeah, so we will see you back here next week for episode 3 of season 1, The Dollhouse.
See you in the woods.
We'll see you in the woods.